All right. Hello. I think we are all here, and I'll walk us through the list. Um, whether or not that state, I don't think, I think the chat changes. If you would like me to put the list back in the chat for reference, I'm happy to do so as well. And I'll take us through it. And it may also invite that we think of some new things as we go as well. And I realized I was in 14-point font, so hopefully that list looks a little more easy to manage. So let's go through again. We're just brainstorming, put it out there. What easy access for the public, easy to say, complicated to do, right? I've definitely learned a lot going through all this. So brainstorming some ways that we could make it easy for the public to access. Yes, go ahead, Ginger.
So would this be one of those overlaps where we're talking about anything being easy to access for the public where the records are over 6 months, or if they're from another county? Is that kind of tying into that, those three pieces? Okay. So I'm assuming that's a programming thing if you're looking at trying to make it easy to access, right? Right at the moment, I can only get things within 6 months. So I'm assuming that's an IT programming thing. So.
Right, maybe connecting back to that modern system and having the support for it.
Yes.
But those being definitely some problem areas. I understood from the Q&As of like the panels where like a lot can happen. That's is where things get tricky. So I suppose that does just bring us back into the printing certificates longer than 6 months in the second one. Do we have more ideas about that? Like, how could that look?
I think for easy access to the public, definitely following up what Ginger said. Also making sure that it is also tied to the policies and procedures, but clear communication, clear instructions for everyone, for the public, for our partners on explaining. Yeah, just clear instructions on how to get records, where to get them, and then as following what Ginger and we've also just mentioned, where people can go, what they need to do. So improving that communication and having a variety of different options for providing access to the records as well.
Okay.
And I would assume, again, that kind of goes back to IT, like updating websites and that modern piece that you're speaking of, Jennifer, really bringing that to the forefront for the public. Okay.
Yeah. Did I miss a hand? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Shauna. It's just not showing up.
Yeah,
right.
I remember.
Along the same lines, I use almost exclusively, I'm requesting older death certificates. And so I use VitalCheck. And I spoke to this before, and I think it falls in the same category of some behind the scenes IT stuff, but their tracking doesn't work. It's kind of misleading. It says it's already been processed and almost makes it look like the state's not doing its part. But I think what's happening is the handoff and the synchronization between the two might not be happening. So the user friendliness, the ability to track, at least through VitalCheck, doesn't currently exist, at least with reliability. So an extension of what Ginger and Jennifer voiced.
Okay, better synchronicity and reliability, and definitely all coming back to that overarching modern system. A lot of overlaps there too. Should we continue with looking at sustainable funding, or do we have more? Oh, sorry, I see another hand. Wally? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I'm all the way back at the top one, the easy access for
Okay,
the public,
sure.
and
Let's do it.
it just kind of dawned on me that you know, the accessibility to records, in my world it's death records, but the criteria is there as to who has access to them, and I don't know that that would change, but I almost wonder if it's said, instead of access, maybe the issue is easier navigation to the public.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the criteria is likely to change as to who's entitled to records. It may, you know, we're thinking outside the box here, but it seems like that criteria is fairly firm, but the navigation may be the issue.
Okay, so that's an important distinction.
I think so, and I think
Yeah.
that's what I was hearing was that uh, that a couple people were saying that it could be a challenge, especially the, you know, older Oregonians, more mature Oregonians, we'll say, um, might be a little bit challenged as we go forward if we don't keep that generation in mind when it comes to the navigation. Then the equity part of this hasn't been met.
Yeah, I okay, Cindy, if I follow up with what I think, I mean,
Yes,
really,
please keep going. Keep going.
the key idea of, and following up exactly what you're saying, accessibility and making sure we're meeting the accessibility for everyone. So, yep, you have to have a modern system. You have to be able to do it on your cell phone and your iPhone, but then you also should be able to call. You should also be able to walk in and go in anywhere you need to go in person. And you can also put it in the mail and put a stamp on it. You can talk to somebody, but you can also maybe do you know, talk with an AI chat bot. I mean, so you really want to have the gamut for accessibility to all is really, and taking that into account. So it's being modern, but making sure we are having accessibility for everyone.
Really well said.
Being modern, but not leaving anyone behind.
Yeah.
And so having the array of options.
Mm-hmm. I would love to use AI, but it scares me.
Here we go. Yeah.
I think what Wally's saying too is maintaining the eligibility rules and policies that we have to follow, because that doesn't seem like that'll go away.
Yeah, that's and if I'm in like the way that people need to show their eligibility, maybe that's also in the clear processes, right? Because that would be another thing to streamline. Sorry, maybe I'm jumping in a little bit too much there. I should just be recording, but it does seem to connect to that overlap as well. Clear standards and policies. And going back to clear communication instructions for everyone, having a modern system, having the update with Vital Check to be better, like with better synchronicity and reliability. See if that spurs anything again, or we could move into sustainable funding. Should we take the next one? Any thoughts about how to meet the need for sustainable funding?
I'll take a stab since it's mine. um, um, again, all of the vital records offices throughout the state are fees based. So really to have a modern system, we do need to have more fees. And also, being creative in seeing if we should be thinking about asking the legislature for some money to at least not ongoing, but just to get some money to be able to modernize the system and get us caught up. Because that's something we've never done. We've never asked the legislature for money. That's being creative, which I haven't done yet. So, and Wally's laughing.
Ginger, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I have a question, and this is probably like taking a poll, but nationwide, I'm just kind of curious, state by state, what do their vital records charge for their birth or death records? I know that Hawaii, it's $10 to get a birth certificate. I don't know what, but I'm kind of curious I don't know.
So I can answer the range. It ranges from about $25 to $30 to $10, but also the states that have a lower amount actually do get general fund money. And we have no general fund. We do not get any, and never have in my entire career here, gotten any taxpayer general fund money. So it does vary based on the way the Vital Records Office is funded.
So would a fee increase in terms of the cost of a birth or death record be perhaps one small viable solution?
Yeah, fee increase, and but also my thought on being a little creative is just asking for not necessarily ongoing funding, but maybe one legislative or two across two legislative sessions, a larger amount to get the system up and running, to get it modernized, to be able to get all the changes that we need that potentially would come out of this group, even to get all of the older records fully electronic. So there could be electronic issuance of all of those records. And you're asking for money, but you're not asking for it forever and ever and ever. It's just one amount to get everything up and running. And then, of course, using fees and other funds for maintaining the system.
Gotcha.
It's later on in the list, but with the part about adequate staffing, adequate classification, and adequate training, maybe as that connects to funding. I don't know if that makes sense to connect that conversation, or we can just go straight through the list, but I don't know if that also lends to funding. But actually, we did just address for all certificates to be electronic, this modern system and having the big push that the older records and everything could be in there already covered another bullet point. So yes, Jennifer.
Thanks, Cindy. To follow up on the adequate funding and adequate classification, it is tied to funding, but it's also making sure we have enough staff, and then also the classifications for the staff throughout the state really match what's needed. So instead of having to be hiring office specialists doing major legal changes on records, you have and again, I'm vary from county to county, but the state system is there's a certain classification for a position, And then we can't just move people into a higher classification. There's a process for doing that. But making sure that the classification or the jobs that people are working in match the skills and the experience that's required to do this level of work. And the work has changed a lot over the past 15 years, but the classifications that the staff are in, and even at the county level, have not changed. So it's just making sure we have the adequate classifications, but then also the number of staff at those classifications to do the job.
You're like, the work has changed, but the levels have not. Is that correct? Okay. Is a summary point. Okay. And yes, Wally.
Well, first I need to make sure that Dr. Woodward understands I wasn't laughing at her. I was laughing with her when talking about creative, and I know you know, but asking for general fund dollars certainly would be a creative approach. I think we need to be careful about that balance of, asking for a grant from, from the legislature for, the immediate needs of upgrades and improvements to the system versus things that need to be more sustainable. Staffing, for instance. You're not going to use a grant of that kind to permanently staff your offices. And so I think that you have to be really careful about that approach. But I think the one-time grant type approach could be really effective. It'd be an uphill battle for sure to go for general fund dollars, but that's certainly it could be a very creative approach to how to bring these improvements. I listened to families talk about the cost for death certificates, the state filing fee, which it's divvied up in different ways, but there's some angst when it comes to talking about those fees. And when a family comes in and they say, I want 15 death certificates, and you say, well, maybe pump the brakes on that. Maybe we can help pare that down a little bit so you're not spending $200 to $300 on death records, but maybe we can whittle that down, and usually we can. But I'm getting a little far afield here. But in any case, the one-time grant from the legislature actually has me fairly well intrigued.
Yeah, back to Jennifer.
So while you just sparked something that I just reminded of, one thing for a modern system, which I did not mention, is figuring out how you can do an official electronic certification of a vital record. So you're not having to purchase paper copies, that there's a way to actually have, and they are doing this as a national, there's ideas on a national standard. So being modern enough to say, okay, you've purchased your record from the Center for Health Statistics, and it's an electronically certified record, and then you can then use that record as electronically versus having to have paper and multiple copies of paper, which would save money. And so that's an actual kind of, it's having an electronic certification of the record.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and that
what a great idea.
Then that's been being explored and trying to establish that nationally. And we did, so that's something I should have mentioned as my modern system, and that would really help customers. They don't have to be carrying a piece of paper around with them. They can work with anybody and just have one electronically certified copy. They would need to figure out you would still need to purchase it, but at least now we're not having these hard copy paper records being moved around in the mail. People still may need them, but that's one thought on modernization.
I think that'd be phenomenal. it's a fantastic idea. The counties might bark at it a little bit just because it'd be quite a bit of lost revenue, wouldn't it?
I think it would be a wonderful tool. I mean, with the wildfires that we have had and the families that have lost things, if they had something like that stored in the iCloud or someplace on their hard drive, I mean, maybe it would lose a little funding, but I think, I mean, I don't know what all that entails, but I love that idea for the families, for the ones that, 3 years later come back and go, oh, I need another one. That would be so ideal,
I agree. I think it's fantastic.
I think we've got about 2 more minutes. I think a couple things were printing certificates not in our county, reciprocity with neighboring states, and then like the login, over and over again login. Were some other things there if we have a couple. I think we have a minute or two. I'm sorry. Well, go ahead, Molly.
No, it's not me. I just haven't figured out how to take the hand off.
I'm like, I'm doing the notes and looking at y'all, so sometimes I miss the hand. So appreciate your patience with. Oh, here we're going in about a minute, but good job, y'all. I think we did a great job in an afternoon and getting some ideas going, and we're just getting started with the process. So
Thanks for facilitating, Cindy.
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Y'all are wonderful to work with.